in this business because this person.
One of the things I emphasized was the materiality of the conflict, so that becomes a very important factor. So in the example you just gave now, the conflicted person has actually declared that they are very close friends with, whoever, our item that's on the agenda. So already there's a huge materiality challenge on that declaration, and in that case, that person would not even have an option but to vacate the meeting, etc., right? But if it's a non-material, conflict, like I stated, someone from long ago, from primary school, for example, then in that case, and once again, like I said, it's a determination, right? So I can imagine if I was chairperson, I would probably say for every conflict, just go and sit outside to be on the safe side, because of course I wouldn't know, even if these people didn't know each other from primary school, they can obviously reignite on Facebook and Instagram and meet there and discuss the issue again. So I think out of good practice, yes, I think it would be advisable, especially in cases where the materiality of the conflict is high, that the person vacates the meeting. But in cases where even the materiality is low, I would suggest that you also consider then excusing that person from the meeting, as you're suggesting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Doc?
Thanks.
Firstly, relating to board evaluations, you're right, it's very mechanical and also very expensive, by the way. I've had board evaluations about 600,000, somewhere there. But the reason they're mechanical is because they're based on a questionnaire, a standardized questionnaire, based on the King IV principles that gets, either electronic or physically shared with the board. You fill it in, there comes out a report, etc. However, the outcome will remain useless if the shareholder doesn't look at it, which is, I think, what happens most of the time, because there's just so many board evaluations to look at. It then becomes an academic exercise. It's a compliance tick, that did they do a board evaluation? Yes. But then also, if the shareholder only wants to use the board evaluation to weaponize it against certain board members, then once again, it also becomes a useless tool in it. So, in other words, there must be an understanding between the board and the shareholder that we are doing this because we want to improve and close the gaps on the board. But if not, then nothing is going to come of it. Because remember, the evaluation usually has recommendations of where the gaps are and how they need to be closed. If you're lucky, those recommendations will be implemented. If not, the next evaluation 2 years later will raise the same issues, which is what we've seen happens a lot, within boards. The same issues keep festering year and year and year, and for different reasons. It could be that the shareholder leaves midway his term, the other shareholder comes in, he's not interested in what the other shareholder did, and so on and so forth. So I think to get value out of it would be if, for example, the board identifies the weaknesses, because it's sort of like a self-reflection as a board to say, this is where we are. Are we properly capacitated? Do we have enough skills and diversity on the board? Our systems and procedures, do they function optimally? Our meetings, are they created, do we get board packs in time? Do we get sufficient notice for meetings? Is the Office of the Company Secretary sufficiently capacitated to help us achieve our objectives as a board? And does the relationship between the board and management actually foster a culture of achievement in the organization? Then the board evaluation will be useful. But outside of that, it becomes an academic exercise, right? The second issue on the voting, whether that gets taken into account, it certainly does. Because you're right, you'll never know, or have all the information in time. So the only thing you need to demonstrate in that scenario is that your decision was in good faith, it was in the best interest of the company, and that it was done with due care, skill, and diligence. If you can demonstrate that, you are basically limited from liability as a director. And yes, of course, we will make wrong decisions. One of my former board chairpersons used to say, that's why even judges have judges to correct them, So sometimes we will make mistakes as a board, but that shouldn't, hamstring. So the question is always that, is this in the best interest of the company based on the available information that we have? And in that case, if you can demonstrate that to the court, then that will certainly stand as a defense in the decision. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.